Hi, everybody, and welcome to talking about sound with P5JS. First thing I want to mention is that when you're working with audio, sometimes you need to edit sounds. You might need to compress sounds down to a smaller file size because the P5JS editor won't accept anything larger than 5 megs. Audacity is a free open source audio editing program, really simple. You can use it to prepare sounds that you find. You can use it to edit, trim, modify stuff. Totally worth checking out if you wind up doing stuff with sound. Just wanted to point that out. And here's where you download it: audacityteam.org. I'll put the link in the comments of the video. So the sound in P5JS is actually part of the sound library. So this is where we start talking about things that extend the capacity of P5JS, of the core P5JS library. And now the sound library itself is here we go. This isn't even what I'm looking for. Here we go. So the library is something that extends it. And so P5 Sound is a core library. That means that it's sort of like baked in a lot of ways. It's not baked in the same way that the DOM library is now, but it's something that's maintained by the core P5JS community. There are many, many other libraries that you can see here. I will make a couple videos about a few of these, for y'all to check out if it's of interest to you. But this is more of a general thing, like how does this all work, right? So in order to include a library, you need to provide a link to the JavaScript library itself, right? And so we can see in the index of this example that I've got right here, we've got the main P5JS library. Then here we see something P5 sound min.js. The min file it's called a minified version. Basically, it's processed in a way that removes all spaces from the code, so it looks incredibly difficult to read, but it saves a fair amount of data when you're downloading it to your browser. But it needs to be explicitly included in your index, as would any other library. And when we look at other libraries, we'll see how to manually add our own. But this is just to say that this needs to be in here. So you'll also see in my files here, I've got two sounds. I've created a folder that I stuck them inside. One's called Beep and one called Boop. So you could load them from a remote website or whatever, but in this case, I just have them locally. It's just a lot easier. They'll load a lot more quickly. So those are the two things that you need to get going: the library included in your index and some files to use. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you really basic, simple playback, and then what to do when, in this case, it's just going to be like when something happens, so on an event. So we're using like our good old friend, the bouncing ball, and when the ball bounces off of the side of our canvas, it's going to make one kind of noise, and when it bounces off the top or bottom, it'll make a different kind of noise. In fact, we can see it in action first, and hopefully this sound gets captured here. I'll turn it up, and hopefully the microphone will pick this up when I run it. There we go. So I think that worked for you all. So here in the sketch itself, you can see this is the variable that's holding the ball object that I'm moving around, and then I've got two different things here that are going to hold the sounds, just like we saw when we were holding an image or an HTML element. We want to name something that holds this. So in preload, you always want to load sounds in preload, just like images, external files like JSON or whatever. Here I've got one beep and then the other one boop, both being stuck into preload. Inside of my setup, stuff you're familiar with, creating a new instance of my ball class. And then in the drawing code, I'm just going, you're familiar with this by now, hopefully. Sphere update, wall check, render. Right? So this is just moving that object around on screen. And inside of the class definition, I've got the same sort of stuff we've seen, same with the update. And inside of the wall check, this is where I've got like the event-based thing that's happening. So if it intersects with one of the sides, to play a sound once, we just say soundname.play. That's it. And it'll play it, and it'll stop. You could also say sound.loop. In fact, in the next example, I'll show you how to do that. But you play it once. It's great for like a feedback sound effect like this, where it's just like, doing like beep or boop, right? And it's just a real quick, short thing. And that's kind of it. The things to remember include the library. Make sure that you know the names of your sounds and where they're located. Load them in preload. And then to get them to play, you can just say sound file name .play. One thing to be aware of is volume. So these things can be kind of loud. If you look inside of the sound library documentation, you'll see there's a whole bunch of stuff here, but there's a number of function, and it's way more than we're going to be able to get into here. But you can see all this different stuff inside of that are available to you. And one of the things that you can do is you can set the amplitude of the sound file that's being played. So you can see right here under the sound file class, there's something right here for set volume. And so this will take an argument between 0 and 1, and that will set the volume, right? So, if you wanted a sound to fade in or fade out, you could ramp up or ramp down this volume. It's just something to be aware of, because these play out at maximum volume by default, and it can be kind of loud and obnoxious if that's what you're doing. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to play like a song in the background, but then also at the same time use the amplitude of this song to change things on screen.